Hey everyone, welcome back to another freezing cold everyday EV video. For today's video, we are doing an ownership first impression of the first 1,000 miles of our 2023 Mini Cooper SE.
So we're going to give you guys a full tour of all the options that we picked here for our Mini Cooper SE and what our overall thoughts are, any pros or any cons that we have had with this vehicle or any problems that we have had over the first 1,000 miles.
Yes, and the full review of our Mini Cooper will be coming to Clean Technica soon, so definitely stay tuned for that, and let's dive in.
Before we dive into what options we went with for our Mini Cooper on the exterior, let's talk about why I primarily picked this vehicle. Now, we were looking for a second vehicle after having our Tesla for about 6-7 months. We realized that we did need a second vehicle. Now, we did have a price limit of about $35,000 is the max we wanted to spend on our second car. We looked at a number of used EVs, like smaller EVs, like for example, the Chevy Spark EV. We looked at a first generation Nissan Leaf. We also looked at a second generation Smart for 2 electric, but we didn't really like how those drove. We were lucky enough to be able to get a chance to drive the demo version that our dealership, our Mini dealership had here of a Mini Cooper Electric 2023. And after spending a whole day with it, I fell in love with it. Now, I'll preface this by saying that I did sell my 1994 Mazda Miata that I had for quite some time. I sold it a year before I got this. It was just becoming too much of maintenance, and with the gas costs and everything, I just didn't really want to deal with it. The fun factor was high on my priority when it came to our second EV, and this definitely delivers it, and we'll get into what we feel like it delivers for driving impressions later on. But after test driving one for an entire day, definitely fell in love, placed the order. It took about 4 to 6 months, which is pretty typical about what it is right now. Now, we picked the Signature Plus 2.0 trim for 2023. I really wanted the base model because I just wanted it to be a standard Mini. I wanted to spend as less as I possibly could. They're not making that trim for 2023, so we just had the Signature Plus 2.0. And I'm actually really happy that we went with this trim because it does have some features that the base model from before does not have that I'm so glad that it now has. So this vehicle, all in all, with all the options, we only picked a few options for the vehicle, was about $35,000. So right about our price point that we wanted to spend. We went with the British Racing Green exterior. We've never had a green car before. We wanted to try it out, and I have to say we love this color. It's very metallic-y. It looks really great in the sunlight. Even here on a winter's day, it also looks really nice as well. Now, one thing we did add is I really wanted to have bonnet stripes, just like the original Minis. Now, we did go with a green and black combination, which I kind of like better than the white roof, for example. But really, these bonnet stripes, I think it makes it look very much like a Mini. Now, what's really cool about the Mini Cooper SE is, at least for 2023, there's a number of wheel options that you can pick for your Mini Cooper Electric. This also does vary slightly if you get the top trim, which is the Iconic trim. Now, if you were to get the Iconic trim, which we didn't spending almost $40,000 for that, all of the trim here on the headlights and also the beltline trim and other accents would have been a gloss black, which really isn't a big deal to us because I actually kind of like the way this chrome looks here on our vehicle. But we went with the 17-inch pedal wheels, as they're called, and I really like the design. They kind of have this neat little groove in here. Now, we are wearing the Verstein Windtrack Pro winter tires right now because it is winter time. And trying to drive on summer tires is a big no-no for us here. It gets way too cold for that, and the car wouldn't be able to handle that. So for now, we just swapped the tires, cut the standard wheels that we got on the Mini Cooper. I love the little accents that you get across the vehicle. That's one thing where you can distinguish a electric versus a non-electric Mini Cooper. It's just all these little yellow, green accents they have across the board. But I love these wheels. These are probably my favorite that I have seen. I was really going to go for 16s, but I kind of like the way the 17s fill out the wheel well here on the Mini Cooper. Now on the side, just like the front, the S will be kind of in that same little electric, yellow-green that they have for Minis. I like these little touches of electrification that Mini includes for the SE. Now here on the top, we did go with the black roof and then the black mirror caps, and it gives it, a pretty nice little look. Now we did have the windows tinted. I always have to have those tinted, so it looks really nice and cohesive with the black roof, and I really love the way that looks. Now, one little element that I love about the design of the vehicle is the little charge port emblem that you have right here, where you can press it and then you have your charge port right here. And speaking about this, we primarily charge at home, basically, just on our level 2. If we need to charge at a fast charger like an EVgo or Electrify America, we can. We have a few times just to kind of try it out. This does charge at a max of 50 kilowatts or a green 4, so really not that fast, but we're really just keeping this to a city car, so we're not really going to take too many trips on this vehicle. Now, coming right back, we did get the mud flaps, and we do have an accessory video for that. Did add those from Mini just so we had that too. I also love the design element of the Union Jack taillights. They are full LED, and I actually did recently change this bulb. Some of the bulbs here on the Mini are halogen, like the cargo light, and then also the reverse light in the glove box. I changed all those to LED, that way they look a little bit crisper. But I like these way the taillights look, they look super cool. I like the spoiler. I just like the hatchy design of the Mini Cooper SE in general. We love hatchbacks. I've had a number of wagons as well. So I kind of like the square back that the Mini Cooper hardtop offers. I also like that right back here, you also have that same emblem that you have on the charge port that is outlined here, and that kind of looks like a little plug. And I kind of like that. It's pretty unique. But this is basically what we picked for the exterior of our 2023 Mini Cooper SE. I'm really happy with the way this car looks. It looks fantastic. We get a lot of stares. A lot of people point at the car. A lot of people really enjoy the Mini Cooper and what it looks like. And it makes me really happy to have one in the driveway. So now that we've gone over the exterior, let's go ahead and hop into the inside and show you guys what we picked for that.
So here's my cameo for this video, since this is mainly Tyler's car. Believe it or not, in the 2 to 3 months of ownership, I've actually only driven this once, and I'm going to show you guys why. So to get my seating position, we'll just move this back a little bit. I'll get in, and as I mentioned in previous videos, I'm about 6'1", and the seat is all the way down, but as you can see, I am extremely limited in terms of headspace. This center bar right here really limits my headroom, and this visor really limits my headspace as well. We are planning on removing this, so hopefully this does give me a little bit more headroom. But once I'm in here, it's pretty nice. But this and this, the combination does make it very hard to look over my left shoulder, which could be very dangerous when driving. But overall, I really like the interior.
Now I want to talk about some of the technology that is here on a Mini Cooper SE, and then something that we unfortunately had to miss due to a chip shortage. The first thing that we had to miss on was the heated steering wheel. Now it does come standard on our Trim Our Signature Plus 2.0 that we have, but we had to forgo that, and the button would have been right here, which I love these toggle switches, by the way. They're so cool. You can adjust the regen, which is this switch, on off, traction control, and then also your mode buttons are right there too. Kind of wish that we would have been able to get the heated steering wheel because I'm always cold, but that's right, because at least I have heated seats in the wintertime. Now for tech, I love the new screen that Mini went with in 2022, which is this kind of digital LCD display. This part itself is actually digital, the center portion right here, but this is digital with an analog needle, which is really cool. And then you can also see your status of your state of charge here for your battery. And this is your power, your EV range, and then also if you're regenerating as well. But this gives a pretty good wide range of information that I need. And here on the turn signal stock that we have on the left-hand side, there's a button called BC for business control. You can actually sort through the bottom portion here. Right now in the wintertime, we're averaging about 3.4 miles to the kilowatt. In the summertime, at least the warmer months, whenever we got it in October and November, I was averaging about 3.8, and that was not driving so nicely. So pretty surprised with the efficiency here on Mini Cooper SE. It actually is pretty efficient. Now here at about, we have, let's see, we have about 77% of battery. It is really cold today. It's 26 without the wind chill taking into effect the wind. And we're at about 76 miles, which is pretty about average here in the wintertime with other EVs that we've had in the past. And it really is no big deal for us because there's plenty of level 2s that we can charge at whenever we go shopping if we need to. But I love this instrument display. It's really nice. Now, if you go for the iconic trim, you would get a heads-up display, but I actually kind of like this display better. What's really nice, too, is when you adjust the steering wheel, it actually moves with the steering column itself. So that's actually something that's super nice. Now here in the infotainment, this is the 8.8-inch screen that you have here for Mini. It is either a touchscreen, or what's really nice is I kind of like the Mini Drive. It's kind of like the iDrive in BMWs. You have all your switches and knobs here to, and all of your buttons to kind of control this as well. I find myself actually utilizing the controls more than the actual touchscreen itself. Probably because I'm used to BMWs in the past, having worked for them for quite some time. I'm just kind of used to how this infotainment works. It does have Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto. The only thing is it is wireless, and my phone is supposed to be connected to Apple Wireless CarPlay, and it's not showing up. So that's something that it happens on occasion that I've noticed with all cars with wireless Apple CarPlay. You can connect it. There actually is a USB down here. You can connect it with down here on the bottom where you have your 12 volt as well. You can connect it there for Apple CarPlay if I need to. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it does work and it plugs in. Or if it doesn't, I just listen to Sirius because I pretty much know where I'm going most of the time in this vehicle. Now in terms of tech, I like that you can actually turn that with a on-off switch. So if we turn that on, you do have frontal collision warning, you have pedestrian warning up front, and lane departure warning. You also do have rear cross traffic alert, and if you put it into reverse here, you do have parking sensors as well, which show up here, and you also have some guidance lines which move with the steering wheel, which is super nice. Another thing is whenever you get close to an object, the ring will actually light up in that same color as your sensors, which is super cool. That's another thing too that I love about the Mini is this ring. So if you wanted to adjust, say, your temperature, you could actually see it getting warmer and colder on the screen, which is super cool. It does the same thing with if you have your directions in here with the Mini navigation. If you're changing the volume of something on your music or your podcast, it'll also show up here too. So it's kind of a neat little feature. Now I hope in the future, I have seen for some of the future models that Mini's coming out with, this will turn into an entire display. I do think this is kind of small for the vehicle, but you know, you can make do with what it is. I've made do with what it is, but I would love to see this be a full touchscreen in future models, which I know Mini is working on. It'd be really cool to see that. I haven't really used any of the saving functions here. You have 6 save functions for various things. I haven't set anything to that yet. I just pretty much have everything on Apple CarPlay on my iPhone, so I really have no need to utilize those buttons. Other than that, the interior, I really do like the vents. They're really cool, and I like the circular ones that you have here and kind of like the square ones. They feel really nice. And another thing too that I found out is based on the type of drive mode that you have, you can also change your ambient lighting. So it might be kind of hard to see. We can get some night shots, but you can change that throughout the day. There are so many different colors, which is so cool. I love that Mini includes that toggle switch up here. But yeah, overall, the interior is super nice. Unfortunately for Brandon, like you saw, this kind of gets in the way. But for me, I am really short, so it's really easy for me to get in and out. Another thing too is we have had some people in the back seat only one time, which is Brandon's parents. They've been in the back seat of our Mini Cooper, and we've only done a short trip with them. We probably won't do any long trips with people in the back because there really is nothing in the back seat for people unless you're really small, like a small kid. Obviously, like I said, like we've had our dogs in here with the seats folded, and there's plenty of room for them. Plenty of room for all of our trips. Now, the only thing too is there is limited cargo space when the seats are up. We can fit maybe 4 bags from Whole Foods in there. If you want to add more space to your Mini Cooper, you would have to fold the seats down. I would love to see Mini Cooper do a 4-door hardtop version of the SE. It'd be really nice to actually have a usable back seat for adults and anybody of any height, and then also have a little bit more cargo space. Now I know they're working on future EV models like the Aceman, for example, which I'm really excited about. But for right now, just really enjoying our Mini Cooper. So now that we've talked about everything from the exterior to the interior, let's go ahead and talk about some driving impressions that we have of our Mini Cooper SE. Okay, so now we're gonna get into driving impressions of our Mini Cooper SE. But first, there's a sound that Brandon finds extremely annoying in this car.
It's the startup sound, and it's not so much like I don't know. It's just like the chime that some vehicles have when they're at idle. It does not stop. Especially if you're not like starting to drive, it will just keep going and it drives me nuts. Okay. That sound. And now we're good to go. But sometimes it will literally just keep going.
It will. There's times where it will. It doesn't really annoy me, but it does annoy Brandon, probably because our Tesla doesn't really make a whole lot of sounds
No.
when it starts up.
No. I mean, every vehicle has their things, and yeah, it's quirky and cute, but the fact that it just keeps going, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So let's start driving impressions.
Okay, so now for driving impressions of our Mini Cooper SE. So we primarily drive, like I've mentioned, in the city, so we're just kind of used to streets like this park system, for example.
And being a passenger in the Mini is very nice. I mean, what's weird, and I find this a lot with a lot of vehicles, I actually have more headspace in the passenger seat than in the driver's seat. Not exactly sure what that's about, but it is more comfortable for me to be in the passenger than it is to be in the driver's seat. There are still some times where this middle bar does impact my headroom, but overall, it's a great place to be as a passenger.
Depends on if you're doing your hair for the day or not.
Yes, yeah, or if I have a hat too, but I don't know. I like being a passenger in this car because I know Tyler enjoys driving it.
I do. As a driver, like I said, the car itself is extremely engaging to drive. So I'm used to a lot of sports cars like Miatas and Mustangs and other fun to drive, hatchbacks and station wagons. So I'm used to a very dynamically driven vehicle, and this definitely is one of that. Now, it is winter time, so I'm not going to push into some of the curves here or the turns that we have in our park systems. But during the warmer months, I would do it all the time. I would come to this park system or the national park and just have a blast driving this. And that's the thing is, yeah, this does have, over about 200 pound-feet of torque, but it comes on so quick, it actually jerks the steering wheel half the time. It has quite a lot of torque steer.
Yeah, I will say that that's one of my favorite things about the one time I've driven this is the amount of torque that goes right to the front wheels is very impressive. And the car really handles well. It's very balanced.
Yeah, the steering, right now I'm in comfort mode. There is sport. I've had it in green. There's also green plus, which also turns off your climate control. So I've really needed to save those last few miles, which I have had to do one time. I've had very, very low range, like 1%. And I did have to put it into green plus. It does limit your acceleration, and the regen changes quite a bit too. I do keep it in max regen pretty much all the time. Now, it hasn't snowed, so when it does snow, I'll probably switch it over into low regen instead of max regen, because it does do a really good job of stopping this car. It does have what I would consider one pedal driving pretty much for the most part. There are times where I noticed if you are on an incline facing downward, the car kind of rocks a little bit, or if you're facing up, it also kind of rocks a little bit too. But I still like the car. It does do kind of like an auto hold-ish feature if you're on a hill, but if you're on a slight incline going down, a decline going down, there really isn't too much of an auto hold feature. Hopefully Mini improves that in the future. It'd be kind of nice to actually have that auto hold feature like a lot of EVs do, but this one doesn't in particular.
Yeah, and as Tyler mentioned, with regenerative braking, the Mini regen is really good. It's very strong. Even at 100% state of charge, the regen still works very well. And that's one thing that we do want to point out is because the battery is relatively on the smaller side, there is a gap between the total capacity of the battery as well as total usable, or usable capacity for the battery pack. So you can charge this to 100% and you won't see degradation like you might see in some electric vehicles.
Right. One thing that we've noticed too about the Mini is there's no way to change the charge limit of the vehicle. So when we plug it in, whenever we're done for the day or whatever we're doing, it just automatically plugs up to 100%, which is fine because this is the same powertrain and platform essentially as the BMW i3. So BMW has really done their engineering and their research into this battery pack. So it really doesn't bother us that we charge it to 100% and then do what we need to do. I would say because of the low range, we definitely do want to charge most of it to 100%. That way we have all the range that we can. You know, we're here in the winter months, so we don't have the, 114 miles that it's rated for right now.
No. But even in this colder temperature, we're still seeing impressive range.
So not only is this vehicle really fun to drive, it also is really efficient too, even with the 17-inch wheels and tires that we have on this vehicle. And I wasn't sure how the ride quality was going to be because 16s, the sidewall and the 16-inch wheels are much thicker, so I would have been a little bit more comfortable. But this car is actually pretty comfortable. It does have a short wheelbase, obviously, because it is a two-door hatchback. So on some of the bigger bumps and potholes that we have here in Cleveland, it definitely is kind of a bouncier ride, but I also know the spring and shock setup is a little bit stiffer because they do have the extra weight of the battery pack here in the Mini Cooper. It is a little bit higher up than a gas version of this would be, but you can still have all the mini fun that you possibly want to have in this. And I kind of think that the electric version, obviously, is a lot better to drive. It's a lot more engaging. You have the power exactly when you want to have the power, and the regen is really fun to just kind of let off the throttle and just regen down this hill, for example. Now, in the city, I think, for as small this vehicle is, it's definitely quieter than I think some are within its class of about $35,000. It's really hard because there's not a whole lot of just two-door electrified competitors under $35,000. You can look at the Nissan Leaf or the Chevy Bolt are probably the two closest competitors to this vehicle. We did look at those, but they're not as engaging and fun to drive as this vehicle is.
And that's where my opinion differs slightly. I mean, especially since we owned a Bolt for a few years, I definitely think the Bolt does have some engaging dynamics. But if you really are looking for a flat, small, compact vehicle, definitely look at the Mini, but the only thing that really holds this vehicle back is the range. If it had just a little bit more range, this vehicle definitely could be a more capable car. But just for like everyday driving, in my personal opinion, the range is the biggest thing that holds this vehicle back.
Definitely, and I know Mini is working on future iterations of this vehicle, so I really hope they improve that range. At least 200 miles would be nice to see in a vehicle like this. And faster charging too. We have charged this at EVgo stations before. It is only 50 kilowatts, so it really doesn't charge that fast. But actually, because the battery pack is small, it's funny. I feel like most of the time we look at it, it's been 25-30 minutes, and the car's already at 80-90%, and then we're ready to go, if we need to go somewhere else. But also on the highway too, we are on, some of the Metro Park roads here, but even on the highway, the car is really compliant. It's really easy. The only thing that I've noticed on the highway is because of how direct the steering is, you have to make any little, movements that you make of the wheel is really sharp. So if you're trying to make it center, then I feel like it does get a little twitchy, which is fine. This is kind of like a fun to drive vehicle, so I feel like any little movements kind of move it around. But I like just how direct it is, and it's a lot of fun to drive. And that's kind of the primary thing that I really wanted of a second electric vehicles. I really wanted that fun to drive factor, and we have so many great roads here that we have so many great park systems and side roads and highways and scenic ways, and it's just so cool to take this vehicle on those.
Maybe one day I'll be able to drive it.
Gotta remove that sun visor first.
Yes.
So, now that we've had this for, we're actually at almost about 1,000 miles on this vehicle. I do not for 1 second regret getting this vehicle at all. Despite the range, people will say, 114 miles is not enough. Realistically, if this is your second car, or even if you have small commutes, this is perfectly fine, for those situations. This car is so easy to maneuver too. I love the maneuverability of any tight parking spaces or city streets. It's really easy to kind of drive that around. But I really, for 1 minute, I don't regret this purchase at all. It was probably one of my favorite purchases we ever made. It was really easy to do this purchase. I loved the entire build process that Mini has on their website. You have your Mini tracker, kind of reminded us of a Domino pizza tracker, where you could see Oh, there's a mini wave, by the way. It's really cool. But it was just so cool to like track the entire process of seeing our Mini Cooper being built and then like anticipating that day that we got to pick it up finally in October.
Yes. Yeah. And it's been fun watching Tyler get so excited about this. It's a vehicle that I'm still getting used to. You know, it's a car that I obviously have not driven much. You know, I've mentioned that a few times throughout this video. But as mentioned earlier, it's a lot of fun to even just sit in here and just experience the driving dynamics and see how excited Tyler is to have a Mini, because it is a lot of fun to have a Mini Cooper.
It is. This, I think now that, you know, still kind of in those honeymoon phases, as you say, of having a brand new car, but we've had no issues with this vehicle at all. Now, there's no wood to knock on in this car.
No.
And I know Mini Coopers of the past, especially the gas models, have been extremely unreliable as they get older. But I think with this powertrain, it'll be perfectly fine. I am probably going to keep this until the next generation of Mini Cooper hardtops come out. I really want to see a convertible electric car under $40,000. That's what I really want to see.
Yes, yeah. And while we're on the talk of that, Mini did say that they are working on a convertible version of this for the next generation of Mini Cooper electric. So that's going to be super exciting. And I really hope that we just start seeing different body styles of electrified vehicles, because it is really cool to have a two-door coupe hatchback that's electric. I'm pretty sure Mini is the only one on the market here in the United States that has something like this. So it's very unique.
And of course, with their new models, they're going to be able to stretch that and modulate their platforms for bigger vehicles like SUVs or four-doors or, you know, convertibles or another hardtop like this. So super excited about the new Mini electrification plan that Mini is coming up with and they're going to be doing for their future models. And honestly, can't wait to see more, because this car has made me so excited. I love driving this. I make any excuse possible, literally in the book, to drive this over our Tesla.
I'm just happy to see Tyler happy.
Me too. Well, that's pretty much it for, you know, driving impressions, overall thoughts of our Mini Cooper SE. And, you know, if you guys want us to do any in-depth videos with this vehicle, or you have any specific questions about maybe a feature or how things work on this car, let us know and we'll do a video on that. We want to do as many videos as possible on the Mini Cooper electric. There are some out there, but we would love to add more to the collection on YouTube.
Definitely. And if you like this video, make sure you like and share with your friends. And as always, please consider subscribing to the Everyday EV YouTube channel. As Tyler mentioned, we're excited to share all this content, provide more EV education, and just get people really excited about these products. Well, as always, make sure you take care, stay safe, and make every day electrifying. We'll see you in the next one.